Hello, and welcome to this video on Microsoft Dynamics Customer Service. This video is intended for beginners. So the idea is that we'll see the process on how customer service as a process looks like and how Dynamics 365 customer service supports that process, what are the features and key artifacts of customer service that support that process. Before getting into the application context, let's quickly have a look at what exactly customer service means and how does the process look like. So for this, I'm going to use a very handy picture from Microsoft that they have prepared. This is what a customer service process looks like. You have a customer, and as an organization, I may have multiple customers. That's why the idea is to have an application deployed. Otherwise, recording customer conversation or contact points could also be done in Excel. But customer service, Dynamics 365 takes it to the next level in terms of features and capabilities. So if you look at this process, what you see is that a customer artifact is there, and then we have a lot of channels because in today's world, and this you've practically seen in your life as well, you contact someone or a company not just by web, but also using cell phones, social media, phone calls, and emails. So these are icons that represent. So if we were to talk about a story point of view, what you see as a customer or a consumer, you basically see all these channels, and that's how you contact a company. Huh? So in this case, let's take a phone company, and you have some problem with your phone, so you would reach out to them using one of these channels. And the selection of channels is basically that's entirely to the customer. But the idea is in today's world, companies are trying to support more and more channels to be aware of what's really going on and to serve their customers better. But this happens on the front side. On the back side, when you make these communications, the agent that you speak to, basically what they do is they create a case record. So they register a new record, and that case record basically captures all that information that is given by you. So how would it look like? If I have a problem with my phone, it doesn't start. And then this is the same thing that they will record on a case. They will ask you some other questions, and they will record that confirmation, those conversations also on a case, so that it's available for them to help them troubleshoot the issue, but also work with their colleagues on it. While they're working on these cases, there are a lot of other things that are very useful, especially when you work as an enterprise, in case in customer service, in case creation, and case resolution. So what you would see is that there are some things that are referred to here as the time frame that's promised to the customer. We normally call them SLAs. That's the service level agreement. Because if I am a customer and I'm promised that within 10 days you should be able to solve my issue because it's an important issue. But imagine scenarios where things are supposed to be more critical because either I'm a platinum customer or either the severity of the issue is so big that it's super important to have it resolved as soon as possible. Let's take an example for a heating system, which is super necessary in winters to have working, because if your heating system doesn't work for your house, then you're basically sitting in cold, and that's not very good. And so that's why we have service level agreements, so that the companies do realize this is the agreement that they made with the customer, and this is the time frame that they should take to solve the case. In the same way, there are terms like queues. We'll get into what queues mean, but on this picture, the idea is a queue is basically a way for you to segregate your cases depending on certain type of cases. It will be routed to the right agents having those skills to resolve the cases. Sometimes when you call, you hear, do you want to be routed to the sales department? Or the query is more or less like, do you have questions regarding sales team, or do you have questions regarding service, or do you have technical issues? And based on your response, you route it to the right team. So this is basically where queue comes in. And then on the high level, a case has three different stages. You identify a case, you do your research as an agent, and then you resolve the case. So the customer is only here to give an input via the channels. Everything that happens in the background by the agent, by the group of agents, it's really the background processes. And the last part, you see 14 cases remaining. It has to more do with the fact that you need to have your analytics on your data in order so that you know what exactly is going on in your customer service department. So now that we have had a look at the process, what we're going to do now is see how the application Dynamics 365 customer service supports this process. So I made this a bit bigger so that it's easier for you to read. When you log into customer service dynamics, this is something that you might see. So as a consultant or a product owner or as a functional consultant or as a technical consultant or as an architect, this is what you basically see when you land up. This is dashboard activities. This is all blah 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 jargon. But before I really get you into the depth of what customer service is, I want to really quickly also show you what this layout is. So whenever you open the app, and that's mostly going to be a URL. In this case, the URL is this one. So if I know this is the URL, I'll just quickly go here and I will open my customer service department. So it's not an application that you need to have it installed using an exe file in your PC. It's a cloud-based solution. It's a software as a service, and that's why you have a URL to basically access the application. And most of the Dynamics application that you work with, they will look exactly like this. But I'm not getting into that because that would basically derail the conversation. We are going to start with a quick look on what this navigation means and what are the important artifacts that we also just discussed in the process and how they are supported back in Dynamics 365 customer service. Okay. So having a first look, on your left side is the navigation. The navigation is basically something that allows you to look into different records. Okay? So if I were to map this process and show you how it looks like, I'm going to quickly open um, the picture and show you what it is. Okay, so if I were to map this, you first see there is a customer, right? So the customer information is here. Your customer can be an account or it can be a contact. So this basically lists if I am a phone organization called ABC organization, I will have a list of existing customer that I've already sold phone records to. They're my actual customers. Otherwise, they are prospects. So that's why I'm specifically saying customers. And a customer can be an account or a contact. Both of them are basic, they both fall into the category of customers. The difference is sometimes your customer can be a business. In this case, it's a fourth coffee or it's a query search. Otherwise, it can be a contact, like a consumer, like Claudia. But in this case, what we see is that this Claudia is belongs to this company, Fourth Coffee, and Fourth Coffee is basically nothing but an account, which now explicitly mentions that there is a relationship between account and a contact. We'll get into that later, but for now, what's important for us to understand as a key concept about customers is that a customer can be a business or it can be an individual. If it's a business, then we make accounts for them, and if it's an individual, we make contacts for them. Okay. To explain this scenario, what this means is that I have a business with Fourth Coffee where I've sold 100 cell phones, and my representative from that company is Claudio Mazzanti. And it could be more than one contacts associated to one company because your contact person can differ every time you call. Yeah. So these are your customers, and you want to have them recorded in your system because when they message you, or email you, or reach out to you, you should know all the discussions and all the products they own and other details. This is more on the customer side. And then we have channels. The channels are not exactly represented here. I will show you how we'll represent it soon. But so we also have a concept of omni-channel. I will talk about them in a separate video or a separate session of videos where we'll discuss more in detail about how omni-channel works. And then we'll see, based on this picture, what is a case creation, what is identify, research, and resolve, what are knowledge articles, what are SLAs, and what are queues. So let's directly jump to cases. When I click on cases, what you see, the moment you click on cases as an agent, I see my active cases. My active cases basically shows me all the existing cases that I have in the system. You can also switch to active cases or differences. Now I'll see all the cases within the department that I work for. So there are in total 12 cases. And the ones that are assigned to me are my active cases, which I can click here and see I have 4 cases. If I click on one of these cases, I see that Claudia Mazzanti has called me from Ford Company and they raised this issue. When was this created? It was created on 20th of December 2022, and I am the owner of the case, as in I am the agent who's working on this case, or I am the one who recorded the case, or I am the one who's responsible for the case. It could be anything, any of these things. But in principle, on a high level, this case is about a mineral buildup in water supply. The case number is this. The subject is water supply. This is the customer, Claudia Mazzanti, and the origin is email. So this means that this case was created not by a phone call. So Claudia Mazzanti did not call me; they sent me an email, and the issues regarding the product Smart Brew 300. So now I'll say I'm a coffee company to basically properly represent us, and the case is right now on the identify stage. It has research and resolve stage. This is basically a business process flow. How it's relevant here? I have not find business process flows like you see here very useful. But it's a personal opinion. But what it helps you is it helps your agents understand that when it comes to the life cycle of a case, it has three stages. You identify the problem, which is when you record a case and you gather as much input as you can. Research is when you as an agent are researching based on given facts to you. And on the resolution part, that's where you mark the case of resolve after confirming it with the customer and they're happy. Yeah? On your middle, you see a timeline. A timeline is basically a representation of all the activities that have happened for the case, right? So if I were to have a look at the timeline, I see that um, there are a lot of discussions that have happened. Um, this case was created by Suyash for contact this. This was an auto post because the email was automatically converted into a case. This is one of the cool features of Dynamics, which allows you to basically get all the emails sent by the customers into Dynamics and convert into a case. That's a more advanced feature, but it's a feature that you should definitely know about. I would definitely recommend you to focus on this part. What I'm going to say now, Dynamics has an out-of-the-box feature, which means that it comes directly with Dynamics. You can have your email address configured in Dynamics to receive all the emails directly in Dynamics and have some rules enabled to convert all the incoming emails regarding queries, complaints, or suggestions directly into a case so that your agent do not have to do that manually. So it's quite good in terms of automation. The details on how to set that up and how that works, we're going to discuss it in a separate video because this video is solely focused on high level what a customer service solution from Dynamics looks like. And then you see that I have the option to create additional notes. These are the things that I discussed with Claudia. And why I've recorded them as note, because it's handy for me to record them on this record. Because if tomorrow I'm on vacation, my agent or my respective agent, someone who replaces me, has a full overview of all the discussions that I've had with this customer pertaining to this issue, right? So I kept on recording. I also mentioned that I had an appointment with Enrico. There was a phone call from Enrico to the customer. Enrico also had a meeting with the owner. Enrico sent an email also to the customer asking more details. And this is the part where we gather more and more input, and then further more emails, and then responses from Claudia. You see that because this is again one of the beautiful parts of Dynamics 365 customer service, that since the point when Claudia sent an email to your customer service email such as info@mycoffeecompany.com, all that conversation since then is recorded in a case because the case remembers the email that that was the source for creation, and every other interaction that happened on that email chain will be a part of this living soul or timeline that we call, right? So all these things are recorded right now, and when I'm done with all my research, when I've done solved the problem, or we have sent a customer visit, or we have instructed customer on how to solve the issue, then we can basically mark it to resolve, and we can close the case. So that's how basically, on a nutshell, how a customer service case looks like in real life. Besides this, we also have some other concepts. You see that on a case, it shows you what are the other cases I have for this customer, which is also super important to know because your customer would always expect you to know as much as you can about them, not from a privacy point of view, but on the discussions. Let's say if I have 10 cases open, I'm a big organization. I have 10 coffee machines that have problems um, with your company. Then I would want to call you and know the status for all of them at the same time instead of me telling you every single case. Because when I talk to Claudia, I could just say, okay, Claudia, yeah, you represent Ford Coffee, and I see that you also have other cases like this. Here, I think this one represents the same case, but normally you can see if there are more cases here. You also have case relationships, like if there were other cases, child cases, but this is more in detail. And then we talk about SLAs, and the SLAs are basically the service level agreements. SLA is so big that I need to have a separate video for this, and I'll talk about this in different videos. But SLA is basically service level agreements. This is one of the very important concepts of customer service. If you are especially trying to create a solution for your department, or if you are a consultant trying to understand customer service and implement it somewhere, then I would recommend you to have a very good grasp of service level agreements and queues. So in my next video, we are going to talk about how we can create cases, how we can work with queues, and how we can tie SLAs to them. So now that we have talked about cases, let's see what other important things that we have in Customer Service Dynamics 365 that Microsoft has structured for us or made for us. But before I get into the content, I would take us back again to that picture because right now what we just saw was case creation, what case basically means, and the overall picture of a business process. But see, but let's see what are the other things that are important for us. Let's start with this point where a customer basically reaches out to an organization for customer service support. So if I'm a customer and I would want to reach out to Contoso Coffee Company, which is the generic example that Microsoft takes, um, I can reach it via web, phone, messaging, phone calls, or emails. But what are these things in principle? Microsoft have defined them as activities in Dynamics. So the generic term activity refers to any of those contact moments that you have with the customer. But that's not mutually exclusive. Activities also contain more things under their umbrella. But in this session, we're going to focus only on the things that are important to us, and I would highlight more on the part of phone calls and emails because that's the primary part. Everything else is is covered by Microsoft as well, but that falls more under omnichannel customer service, and that is something that we will see in other videos. But now that we have a picture as an example, let's go back to the app and see what are the activities basically that we have. So email, phone calls, tasks, they are all activities when I click on activities in the app. Yeah? So on your left side, you see activities. And this is dedicated section that Microsoft wants you to have to be able to make those activities in the system and follow up with them. And why are they important and how do they fit in a business process? We are also going to see that now. So let's when I click on activities, it's loading the activities. I see that there are already a few activities under my name. So there is a task. And the reason why I say that is because it's focused right now on my activities. But you see that there are a lot of other views. Again, this is a view which allows you to shuffle between different records that you're able to see. They are basically filtered. So when I click on my activities, I only see my activities. But when I click on all activities, I basically see all the activities, email, phone, conversations, things that are assigned to me, but things that are also assigned to someone else. So I would see basically everything. But for now, I'm just going to focus on my activities. And when I do that, I see there are appointments and tasks. But there are always options to create more. I can also just initiate an email by clicking on this email button if I want to send an email to a customer service. But it is also vice versa true. If a customer sends an email to me, then I would also see that appearing here. In the same way, I could also see phone calls, but any other things that are relevant. So appointments, emails, letters, phone calls, tasks, all of these things are activities, right? This is an exact representation of how you would see that in the picture. But let's also see the practical application of how this would really look like on a case level. So when I go to a case and I try to open a case, I can see the timeline over here. And when in the process of a case resolution, especially in the life of an agent, there are a lot of things that happen besides making a case. They are in discussions, they are creating tasks for others, they are creating notes for others, and all of that needs to be central to and needs to be in the context of a case, because then it makes more sense. If I'm having conversations with my colleagues about a case, I would want that to be reflected here. If I'm sending back and forth emails to a customer, that should be reflected here. In the same way, if I'm creating an appointment with a customer, that should be reflected here. So if I want to create any of those things, all I need to do is just go to the timeline and click here. Sorry, I clicked filter by mistake. But I can click here and say, I want to create a task, let's say, for my colleague. Um, because I have a lot of service accounts also, I'm just going to create, say this is one of the accounts that I'll be assigning a task for. Let's call it, it's mentioned AI Builder Prod, but it could very well be a different name, John Doe or someone else. Yeah? So I can say, John Doe, can you please help me with this issue? And when I create a task like this, I can set a due date because, of course, if you create a task for something, it's nice to have from an expectation or alignment point of view, what is the due date on it? So I say I want to have it done by 9th of January. And the duration of this task would be 15 minutes. So I need 15 minutes of your time. And when I click this, oh, I think I need to use a different account. So I'm just going to use one of my account. Um, and I can create a task for Suyash. All right, so now you get a notification from Microsoft that the records were created, and you see that this directly reflects on the task, on a case level, on the timeline. Yeah? And when I create this task, Suyash can easily pick that up, and then when it's done, they can mark it as complete, close activity, and then it's closed, which means that this task has been completed. If there are other notes that I would like to add as an activity, discussion with customer, that's also possible. I say discussed that the problem is not related to the water supply inlet. And then this is an additional note for someone who's also working with me on the case or who will take over the case. So this is basically how the case evolves, and the evolution of this case can directly be reflected on the timeline using these activities. They are a very important part of this. One of the most important part is an email part and using customer service. And this is something that you would also have customers, when you're working as a consultant, reach out to you on how can we do a lot of things with emails. Some companies would want you to basically create rules to automatically convert it in an email into a case. Sometimes they would ask you to send automated emails when a case is created, when a case is closed. So these are some of the important requirements that you get. And the moment of when you send an email, that differs per organization. So some, because every business process is unique. We need to understand that. And what Microsoft offers as a solution for Dynamics 365, it fits 60 to 70 to 80 to 90%, 95%, but there is always some room to tailor it to that organization. And that's where we need to be very sure and cautious on capturing those requirements and making sure we get 100% fit on that. So this is more on the activities part, how we can create emails and how we can send those emails and how we can automate emails. it will be a different chapter and a different exercise. It's more advanced. So when you are finished with the beginners part, you can jump into the advanced part, and then you will find a video on how to set that up. In the meantime, we created a task for ourselves. So you see, it appears on my list. Had this task been created for a different user, John Doe, it would be appearing in their My Activities list. And again, I would like to highlight this. The layout of Dynamics is similar. So when you click on any of those tables or records, you want to call it, there are these views to filter records depending on needs. So sometimes you want to see what are the closed activities for me, what are all activities in the organization, what is the lost activity, and what is my activity, what are my closed activities. So all of those things, this view basically allows you to quickly, without having to filter it from here, directly choose a view to filter. But again, you as a user is also unique, and you do have the option to also filter it using these criteria. But that's again a bit more advanced. I'm not getting there because this is on a high level what a customer service means, and I'll be making different videos also to see how we can use advanced filtering options and create your own views um, to basically filter records. We have seen activities now, and now we're gonna go back to the picture, and we're gonna talk about this guy, which is a customer, right? So your customer in Dynamics is represented by, and that's valid for any module of Dynamics: sales, marketing, customer service. Everywhere you will see accounts and contacts. And accounts and contacts, they are basically a representation of your customers. Why do we have two tables? Because the customer is also of types in a generic way. A customer can be a business, and that's why you have accounts, or a customer can be a contact, which is a contact. So in this case, what you see is, again, my active accounts. So basically, it means that these are accounts that I'm responsible for. So I have Coffee Lab ABJ as my contact. I have, sorry, I have Coffee Lab ABJ as an account. I have Forked Coffee, Trade Research, and Graphic Design Institute. But in total, there are, again, so this is a view, and it's filtered on my active accounts. But if I want to see all accounts, you just need to switch the view and you see all the accounts. And if you want to create new accounts, all you need to do is just click here on new, fill all the mandatory fields, which are represented by the red asterisk, and then you should be able to create a new record. But we're not getting into that. I think this is something that you can try on yourself. It's super easy, and you can just create a new account yourself. What are accounts and why they are used? Accounts are basically, that's what they refer to, B2C. This is B2B, so business to business, and this is business to customer or consumer. And this basically represents a contact, which by its name is also quite clear. So the full name of the contact is Claudia Mazzanti. However, this is also a point for us to connect why Claudia Mazzanti is linked to Fourth Coffee. Because sometimes a company can have representations for them. And those representations can be individuals. And those individuals are also created as contacts. And these, in this case, that individual is Claudia Mazzanti. Claudia Mazzanti is the one who raised a case, or he reached out to our company to basically create a case. So whenever I have to discuss something with Fourth Coffee, I would call Claudia Mazzanti. So when I click on this company, Fourth Coffee, I see the related contact is Claudia Mazzanti. But if you call them next time and you don't find Claudia Mazzanti available, probably a replacement, you can always just create a new contact underneath this account and say, all right, this time instead of Jane Doe, see. And you see, when you click on plus, Microsoft already filled the account name for you to maintain that link. It already filled the business phone also from the account automatically. But let's say if the phone number is different, you can always change it. And so the same goes for address. When I click on save and close, a contact will be made, and that will also appear as a new contact. So when I go back, I see there are two contacts now, and they both belong to Fourth Coffee. And I don't have the email address captured here, but again, that's something we can always add later on. Let's say I click here and I can say, if I want to add the email address, I can just say Jane Doe at test.com. And this is where I add the detail, and then a contact has been created. But again, this shows my active contacts, but there are also active contacts. Or I can also create a new contact and say John Doe, but this time I will not associate this to any company because this is my consumer and it does not belong to a company. It's an individual that I'm serving. And in that case, it doesn't need to be tied to a company. You see? So this is how this really works from a customer point of view. And now that we have seen activities, customers, and cases, now we're going to talk about queues, which is a bit more advanced. A queue basically itself is a way for you as an organization to manage your work within your departments for customer service. You can have multiple queues in your department. So, and this is why I'm going to take you back to the picture where I will show you also case routed to best queue based on customer type. So here what the Microsoft is saying is based on the customer type, I'll be routing it to the relevant queue. How we configure queues and how queues are important, and queues itself, they themselves are a complicated subject. I will talk on a high level, but the setup of queues, the advanced queues, we're going to see in a different video because it really requires a lot of work and a lot of time for you to spend. And this is the most or one of the most important parts of customer service. It is slightly complicated as well, getting the hang of it, but this is a really cool feature from Microsoft. This basically allows you to have rules in place and 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 automations to route an incoming case or an email to the relevant queue. So think of it, you have a department of 4 people. I'm gonna move. Yeah, maybe I'll not get into the advanced part, but what the idea of queues are, you can have 4 different queues: platinum, silver, the gold, and bronze. And in each queues, you could have agents tagged in, and then every time a new case comes in for a platinum customer, it's automatically routed to the queue of the platinum agents. So when the agents who belong to the platinum queue, they click on queues, they will see all the items that are added here. Yeah. Um, and how you add a case to a certain queue, all you need to do is just click go to a case. And this you can do automatically. For now, I'm just going to do it manually. So you can click go to a case and say add to a queue. And I can say I'll choose contours for coffee questions. Add. I'm getting a generic error from Microsoft. Let's do a default entity queue. Yeah. And this is how you can add something to a queue. And then it appears in the queue as well. So if I'm a part of that queue, I would see it because I have not configured myself for that queue. I don't see it here. Um, but this is again on a high level. So I'm not showing you the exact demo, but for the exact demo on queues, I'll make a separate video with all the things that I've said, different categories of queues, and I'll set that up and I'll show you. Moving on to the insights part, and this is where Microsoft comes up with one more awesome feature: customer service historical analytics. This is basically nothing but a dashboard created by Microsoft in Power BI, and they embedded it in customer service. And it's so powerful, it shows you a list of all the incoming cases. Super handy for managers because it shows you active cases, escalation rates, resolve time, volume trends, cases by priority, and Power BI also keeps generating KPI insights for the managers to already have some outliers to be able to action upon. So there was a 2.5% decrease in CSAT for um, normal priority cases. There was a 50% volume spike in Facebook channel, which basically means I need to focus more on my Facebook channel. Probably there are more agents needed considering the volume spike. And average open 8 case in controls of coffee questions is 35.9% more than all other queues. So this basically says that the cases are open for a longer time in this queue than other queues. So I can have a discussion with the agents in this queue to see what exactly we need to do different, or what are other queues doing different than controls of coffee questions, that they are able to solve a case faster. So these are some of the important things for you to remember. This dashboard is also editable. It has multiple pages as well. So this is a summary, and that was a summary on a case level, but then you also have it on agent level. You can also filter it down depending on agents. So I can filter and see how is Greg Winston doing? Probably Greg has no cases. How is Anna Bauman doing? Probably also no cases. It's just the demo data from Microsoft. That's why you don't see it. But yeah, for Renelo, I do see that there are a lot of active cases and 56 resolved cases. Escalation rate is very high, and then the resolution time is 97.8 hours. But these are also some KPIs. They are very specific to customer service department. We may not understand it now, but they are very important for a customer service uh, manager to basically get a good grasp on what's going on. And again, just like the other page, here also you have some key insights. Remelo has high active cases and high resolved cases. And Kara has few active cases and low resolved cases. I'm not sure if either of these things are good. Lorenzo has the highest customer service satisfaction score, I guess, which is good. So Lorenzo is doing something really nice, and Rene has lesser. So I need to have a discussion with Rene on how we can further improve. But these are some very important parts of the manager dashboard. Yeah. And then we have one more dashboard on Dynamics from Power BI, but I'm not going to get into this because we have not seen the knowledge articles yet, and that is where we're going to get now. Knowledge articles, what are they? Knowledge articles are basically articles that help your organization act faster and respond faster and solve faster. How? Because it's basically a competency you build in terms of knowledge. This is what you do when you learn from your past experiences. Because if you like it or not, there are going to be a few cases that are going to be repetitive, and a solution is also going to be the same every time. So for those cases, it is might as well handy to just write down an article so that next time a case comes in, an agent is able to see what exactly the resolution is. And because Microsoft offers you that as a functionality, when you create a case, it will show you what are the relevant articles that you can use for the resolution of this case. And then you don't need to really seek for questions or answers or have unnecessary discussions with the customer. You know this issue has appeared in the past, and this is how we solve it. For example, one of the knowledge articles is about fix problems with slow coffee dispense. And this is something I can imagine if, as a coffee machine, sometimes customers just call you and say, I have problems with my coffee dispense machine. And for this, the company has basically created a nice article um, which the customer can read themselves and do some troubleshooting by themselves. So this is one of the preliminary steps that could fix the problem. And imagine every agent writing this down in their own way, which may not be completely, um, yeah, well written, or cannot articulate in the best way possible. And that's why a knowledge article is the way to go for that, where you can keep having these knowledge articles. And so we're going to see one of the examples how this really works. So if I just take this text and you see slow, or and the keywords are slow and dispense. So if I use dispense in one of my cases that I create, I would expect that this knowledge article would appear on this side somewhere. Yeah, so if I say problem dispensing with coffee. And when I do that, and let me see if I can already get that. Not yet. And I'm going to save this for now and see if we get any suggestions from the case, from the knowledge article. So now see it's loading. Some issue. Or let me see if I can say dispense here. There's something not correctly configured. Um, I'm just going to refresh it now. One of the things that, because I stumbled onto it, let's say if before we get into the knowledge article part again, um, because I saw this, I think it's nice to explain it. Coffee Lab APJ is an account, and when they call me or when I'm having a discussion with them, you see that the recent cases that I have with them, they are all appearing here. So if they end up asking me about how do I, or the steam arm is broken, I can just open the case from here and give them an overview. But okay, going back to knowledge articles, let's see. There is something wrong, so probably I will get back to this later. But normally how it works is when you type any of these things, say, uh, slow, yeah, something is not good. But okay, yeah, it's a demo environment. I don't know what's going on, but we can have a look later. But what normally happens is you'll see that knowledge article appearing here automatically. Okay, moving on. If you want to create a knowledge article yourself, it's super easy. You can just press new here, and you can say problem dispensing coffee. I can use the same description here, and I can use dispense again, and any other keywords that you like to add, you can add them as well. And then you can write a whole text here. This is what you do. So I'm not going to write everything because probably organizations know what the troubleshooting steps are. I'm not a coffee expert, but let's say they wrote something and then they can save it. What you would also see again familiar is the business process flow. The business process flow here guides you as an agent. So this is what I created in an agent or as a manager that I think this article can be useful for the organization. So I created it. And then what I can do is I can say, I can tie it to a subject. I can say it's just about, yeah, it's a default subject, and I can mark it for review and click on next stage. And then what happens is it has basically entered in the review phase, and this is normally approved by a manager. So a manager can mark it as approved, and when they do it, it will be prompted. So this is something only a manager can do. So I can say, okay, because I'm an admin, I can do all of these things. You see that the status changed from proposed to approved. So now it's there. However, it's still not going to be visible. So what you need to do is you need to also publish it, and you can set an expiration date that this is valid only until this time. And yes, and publish now, or you can also put a future date for publishing, and then you can mark it as published. So this article should now be visible for any of your agents if they have problems with dispensing coffee. But because I'm getting some plugin errors when using it, so that's why I'm not going to get there. Let's see if I can use search here. Problem. Yeah, something is not right actually with knowledge articles configuration. So that's why we're getting these issues. And then we have also a small section on customer assets. Some companies also record their customer assets here, and customer assets are basically nothing but the products that you sold to your customers. So think of them as um, if you have 5 coffee machines, let's say in your inventory, and you sold 2 of them to your customer, one to Coffee Lab and the other to Fourth Coffee. In principle, they become an asset of customer, and you can have them recorded here because next time they call, you can just find those customer assets using because see the product is always going to be the same. If I manufacture an iPhone 8 Plus, then iPhone 8 Plus is going to be a phone just a name for me. But for a customer asset, is going to be the combination of the serial number and the product. So they have an iPhone 8 Plus with blah blah serial number, and then we're going to tie that product to a customer, and that's what you do when you create a customer asset. You choose one of your products, and you can tie them to, let's say, um, accused scale 110, and you can tie them to a customer. So I will tie it to Coffee Lab APJ. Then I can say save. You also see there are properties. Here you can add more properties. Anything that you think important as properties, you can easily add them, and that's where your customer asset is created. So what you can also do is you can create cases for customer assets and record them and say, and that helps you basically identify the problem, the product, the serial number as well. You could also get insights on what are the most um, frequent cases for a certain product, or which are the products for which I get maximum cases. And then IoT alerts are, imagine your Wi-Fi router, sometimes it's not working, and then they have these chips which automatically send a signal that there is no um, feed on it, and then you can take proactive, and that's what we call as preventive maintenance actions, which again classifies you to a distinguished customer service. Imagine customer calling you for a problem is one thing, but you already identifying before the customer does and proposing a resolution or fixing it on the fly and informing the customer. That's distinguished customer service. So IoT is something that helps over there, but that's for you to know on a high level. We're not going to go into detail for that one. And then the last few sections are templates. And templates are email templates and email signatures, because as an agent, you'll be sending a lot of emails. And for that, an email consists of two parts, the content and the signature. So both of these things, you can have them configured as templates. So whenever you create a new email, you can directly choose a template, and you can directly load your default signature. And if you want to have a default template loaded as well, what you need to do is just when you start an email, just choose a template. How we do that, I'm going to quickly show you. Okay? So for now, you see that there are a lot of email templates. There are email templates that are created for an account. So when you're sending it to a customer, but there are also email templates that are for cases. So in this case, you can see it like this. One of the easy tricks for you to learn is if you want to filter something in a view like this, you can just click on that column and say, I want to see only templates that are made for cases, which helps me understand how many are there. So in this case, I see case auto response, case escalation. So let's say if I want to send an escalation email for a case, what do I need to do? If I want to use this template. So what this template is, it says that it's a case escalation template, and everyone within the organization can use it. And it's in English, which means Microsoft also allows you to create email templates in different languages. How we do that? Super easy. You can use and start existing template and start configuring it, and then you can specify when it asks the language to a new language that you want to. And the description is use this template to inform a customer that you've not forgotten about his or her request, and that the customer's case has been reassigned to a specialist for resolution. This is one of the emails that I can imagine in any organization you'll be sending it quite often. So it's handy for it to be there. And what you see is dear case customer, value customer, what is that? What is this? It's just a parameter. Remember this word, a parameter. It's a dynamic text. So you can tie, tie an email template to a field on the case. So whenever an email template is used, automatically whatever is there as text in that field is taken over by the template. So in this case, what we see is the customer is taken over when I use it for a case, and so it says from the case pick the customer, okay, from the case pick the title, from the case pick the owner of the case, and who is a customer service specialist, right? So let's now use this template to see how this looks like and how this works. So if I were to send an email for one of the cases, which is a very good connect of sending emails, I can just go to that case and I can say, I want to send an email to Claudia Mashanti. And I just click here on the time and the plus icon, I say email. What you see is Microsoft already makes an association in the regarding field of an email, and a draft email has been created for you, but where is our text? Here is something where you have the option to insert a template by clicking here. And when you click on insert template, it asks you which case field do you want to map it to? Do you want it to map it to the customer? In that case, you can use all the customer related templates, or do you want to use it regarding? In this case, we're going to use regarding because we want to use case as a base entity. If I use two, then I would only see the templates that are configured for accounts or contacts. If I use regarding, I will be able to see it for the record case. You see how it changed. And when I click on select, I see case, auto response, escalation, and all these. And when I click on this one, you see, and then I say select, and then all the text is taken over, and you see that it's also auto-filled. So your Pandey is working, Claudia Masanti, and it's over this issue. This is quite handy. But in a similar manner, I can also insert signatures if there are, right? I can choose to send it now, or I can just save and close it to send it for later. I've created a draft. And when I think I'm ready with the email, all I need to do is just go to this record and just send it. Remember, this is not sent yet. This is still draft. So it would, connecting it back to activities, you create a new activities, it would appear on your activities as something that you've created. But you see, it has not been sent yet. It's in your draft email. Connecting it to your dashboard now, because now we have summarized all the activities and everything else. I can just go to dashboards and see, I created a case today, which is this. I have a draft email, which is this. I will quickly zoom out, and I have all these pending activities with me. Is this not beautiful? Because as an agent, you would want to have an overview of everything on your customer service, from cases to your open emails to your sent emails, especially my draft emails, because you don't want to create an email and not send it, or you want to, because sometimes you create an email and you want to send it later for one reason or another, and this is where you have the overview to see all of those things. And then you also have the open tasks, emails, appointments, and then this is the best view for you to understand. And how you can switch between dates is from here. It shows you for this quarter, but you can also have a more focused approach and say for today. And then you would have a more filtered view. Yesterday, now you see one of the cases where it disappeared because it was not created yesterday, it was created today. And so this is how this dashboard works, activities. We have seen almost every single part of it except signatures. So we're going to get to signatures now. I do not have any email signatures, but let's see if there are any existing email signatures. No, but we can easily create them. All you need to do is, so yes, signature, click on new record, and there we go. And yes, I could set it as a default, and then regards Suyash Pandey. And this is how, again, you can have here dynamic text as well. So some things that will auto-populate from your record. But I'm not going to use it for now. So it's again, a bit more advanced. So you can add pictures from here, or you can make something bold if you want to highlight that. For example, your name, or you want to put it on italics, or you want to choose a different font. All of that is possible from here. So I'm just going to save and close and have this signature. So this is my signature. And if I go to a new email, so let's say if I want to go back to the email that I drafted and I want to add my signature there, all I need to do is just go here. You see, it's there. Super easy. That was everything I wanted to tell you about customer service for today. And this is basically on a high level, everything that Microsoft also offers as a functionality. So let's do a quick recap of what we have. We talked about customers, we talked about the channels, we talked about cases, we talked about queues a little bit. We did not talk about SLA in detail because SLA and queue is a concept that I believe we should have separate sessions on. So where I'll start again, maybe a little bit from a beginner side and take it all the way to the advanced level. So it will be a long session, but that will basically give you a good grasp on these very, very important concepts. We talked about agents and how they work with queues. We talked about knowledge articles. We encountered some issues. We talked about business process flow, identify, research, and resolve. We talked about case resolution as well. But Before closing the section, I can also talk about it a little bit more. We'll just close one of the cases and have it finalized. And then and the last part is the reporting part, which I also showed you using two dashboards that we have. And this is again one of the important parts because when you are doing an implementation or when you are exploring the customer service app, there are two options. This is the Dynamics dashboard that you have default, and then you also have Power BI dashboards from Microsoft embedded in your app. Remember this word because this is indeed a possibility, and you can also extend this dashboard as well. Okay, so to close, before closing, I'm going to resolve one of the issues that we have. Um, let's resolve the issue that I created. So it's in progress. Um, and I can just mark it as, is it not working now? Yeah, no, this article is not working. So I can resolve it. I would say it's this is how you do it. You click on that button and then you can mark it to resolve, problem solved, and agreed with the customer, and then you can resolve it. There's also one more route that a case can take. I did not discuss about that, but looking at the button, it reminded me you can also cancel a case just like that as well. I'm not going to cancel it. These are very important cases. But it's super easy. You can cancel and you can say that this case was merged or it was canceled. That's it for today's session. Thank you so much for listening. Yeah, and we'll see each other soon, I hope. Good luck.